Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this edition of Seen Beyond and Through with Monty. Over the weekend, we had some great things that happened at the U.S. Open. Definitely great for one Coco Gauff and Novak Djokovic. As you guys know, both of them won the singles titles at the Open for 2023. And these matches here were a great success in that there was no rain. There were pretty much no delays. They got through it pretty successfully without anything happening that would hamper matches. But one thing which I do want to bring up to you, and I do want to highlight, is that as I'm on social media, this whole thing about the wages come up, about the pay scale, has people wondering, is it fair? See, both the men and women got paid $3 million. However, with the men, they play the best of 5 sets, and with the women, it is the best of 3. And I have some people scratching their heads wondering, how is that fair? How is that equal? Shouldn't it be equal pay for equal work? Well, to a degree, I agree with that. However, to understand the pay disparity, well, rather the pay equality, and to understand the disparity when it comes to playing the sets, you have to go back to the very beginning. And to go back to the very beginning, we have to look at one Billie Jean King and what happened 50 years ago. So, since I'm old school, I'm going to give you a history lesson about this particular topic. And by the way, I happen to be a very big tennis fan. So 50 years ago, Billie Jean King and 9 other courageous women started the Virginia Slims circuit. It was not called the WTA back then. It was called the Virginia Slims. So what these 9 women wanted to do was that they wanted to play the same amount of sets that the men played. But in return, they wanted equal prize money. They were willing to do that. They begged for it. For years, they begged to do that. However, the sponsors of the Virginia Slim circuit were all men. The early days of women's tennis was controlled by men, and the men would not allow the women to do that because they felt that they were too fragile, too dainty, basically that their bodies couldn't withstand 5 sets. So what they did was that they limited the women to the best of 3. So as you can clearly see, it was not the women's fault. They wanted to play the best of 5 like the men. They were willing to do that. They kept on asking, pleading for years. However, the men who controlled the circuit, the Virginia Slims, who were in control of the sponsorships, would not allow the women to do that. So here's where we are at today. That particular thought pattern stuck. It stuck with where we're at today. Basically, the women are playing the best of 3 sets, the men the best of 5. Those rules and regulations from way back yesteryear, in which they could have changed. They could have been more fair and open-minded. They chose not to. So that is the reason why I think it's completely fair that the women are getting paid the exact same as the men. Because it is not the women's fault. It is the men at that particular time who controlled the circuit, who would not allow women to play the best of 5 sets. And keep one thing in mind. The year-end championships, for the longest period, up until about 10 years ago, I believe, they were playing the best of 5 sets. The women did not complain. Somehow it got snatched from under them, and they made it the best of 3. Which brings me to another point, which you guys some people are saying that it's unfair that the men have to play the best of 5 sets. Okay, 50 years ago, Billie Jean King and 9 other courageous women protested. They got the circuit started. And what's stopping the men from doing that today? I agree with a lot of people. I believe that the best of 5 sets is just too long. And I do believe that if the men were to play the best of 3, someone like Novak Djokovic can probably extend their careers even longer because it's much less match play. So what's stopping someone like Novak Djokovic, even Rafael Nadal? What's stopping the top 10 men, top 15 from protesting and saying that we refuse to play any matches, any more Grand Slam matches, unless we are brought down to the best of 3? You guys can chuck that 5 set, get rid of it. We don't want to do that anymore because we want to preserve our bodies and we want to be as injury-free as possible. So what's stopping the men from doing that? It's not the women. It's them. They can get together, they can organize, they can protest if they wanted to. And believe me, if the top 10 men, top 15 men say we're not going to play, they would change that rule overnight. So therefore, with this whole thing about why are women getting paid the exact same amount as the men, but they're working less, that's really much ado about nothing. That's not the women's fault. They did not ask for that. That is not what the earlier pioneers wanted. They wanted equal pay for equal work. But it was the men who controlled the circuit who was not willing to give that to them. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that is another edition of Seeing Beyond and Through with Monty. And I will see you all beyond and through.